Hello and welcome to the Dank Christian Memes podcast. My name is Broclen. I'm one of the moderators from Dank Christian Memes. I'm also the digital minister as well as the host for this podcast. I'm joined by my co-host today, Castor Troy, and we have I Am Deirdre with us from Our Awe, as our title indicates. So I guess we'll just jump into it with introductions. Like I said, I'm the digital minister here. I've been with Dank Christian Memes for about 2 years. This is my second Easter coming up. I've been a lurker on Reddit for years before then. And this is actually my second account. So I'd say I've been on Reddit at least 10 years at this point. I enjoy being the digital minister here. I'm not paid. This is a volunteer position, and I really enjoy it. Especially when friends of mine like Castor Troy join me. What's your story, Castor Troy?
If we're talking about like Reddit origin stories, it's funnily enough, I only started using the platform once you all started doing it about 10 years ago, and FOMO hit me. I didn't want to be left out of the conversation. So yeah, I've been lurking on Reddit, semi-active for about that entire time. Been enjoying being a part of these Dank Christian Meme podcasts with my good friend Broclen here. And yeah, I act kind of as the pop culture media knowledge guy around here. So if I need to fill in some contextual gaps or paint the picture of what the zeitgeist is at any given moment in time when we're talking about such things, that's what I like to be around for.
And we appreciate having your expertise. And I think we'll want to come back to a little bit of where wholesome and adorable content fits in the zeitgeist. But Deirdre, do you want to give us a brief introduction of yourself and tell us, how long you've been on Reddit? Did you wander in from on a cold, dark night, not knowing what you were doing, or had you heard about Reddit like Castor Troy and said, well, I don't want to miss out?
Well, actually, I came to Reddit about 16 years ago. I was part of the mass Dig migration. I had been on Dig, and it was a very similar platform to Reddit, that they decided to change how they were going to do things. At the time, they had articles and comment sections, and I really enjoyed that. So I heard about Reddit, and I came over. And the rest is history, I guess.
And the Dig redesign was kind of seen as a boom for early Reddit, right? That because they had changed Dig so much, people were looking for a new place. And a lot of people think that's why they're so bashful about the Reddit redesign, is that they always make it optional because they're afraid of the same thing happening to them.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I really enjoyed Dig at the time, but once they did that redesign, I was out of there.
Well, and that really can change the user experience. So what had you heard about, Reddit before you looked around at Dig and say, oh, I got to get out of here? Like, did you have a keen awareness of what it was? Or was it just that you needed a place to be a refugee and Reddit was there?
Well, I'd like to say that I was proactive and did a lot of research, but I just knew everybody else was going there. So I joined the Exodus and haven't looked back. I've loved my time on Reddit so far.
I wonder if in 10, 15 years, we'll be saying the same thing about Twitter and Mastodon. I don't know that Mastodon has had its big moment yet, but I do know that people sort of defect from Twitter to Mastodon, which I'm told is a pretty trying its hardest to be a clone of Twitter on surely a shoestring budget.
I've heard good things about Mastodon. It's interesting how it's decentralized, and I think that could be a real selling point for people once they get over the technology hump.
Yeah, we've had a podcast about social media networks, and I've said that a little bit of shakeup would be, could be a good thing. And there's still rumors that Reddit's going to do a public offering and be a publicly traded company. So who knows what that could mean. So how long were you on Reddit before you became a mod? Because going from a refugee to the mod of Our Awe, which I don't want to blow up your spot here much, but when you look at Our Awe, there's a little stat in the corner that says this is the third largest subreddit. So you went from a refugee from another social media network to actually being in a pretty influential spot? Was that a long journey, or did you waltz right in and they were glad to have you?
Actually, I became a moderator around 12 or 13 years ago. I created my own local sub. I live in the St. Petersburg, Florida area, not to dox myself. Please don't harass me. Please.
We didn't ask. You gave the information freely.
I did. Well, it's all on my profile. So I created St. Petersburg, Florida, and I grew it from just me to having, I think it's over 30,000 people now. And then I was interested in pottery, and I saw that they were looking for people to help pottery look a little nicer. And I'm an artist, so I offered my help, and now I run it. And then I just, I don't know how, I just started joining other sub teams, and eventually I did join RA. I saw that they needed some help, and I've had experience with bigger teams like Futurology, and so they accepted me, and I've been delighted.
Yeah, that's somewhat similar to my story. I started as a moderator on a subreddit called Holy Prequel Memes. It's prequel memes from Star Wars, but focused on religious content. And I actually helped get more content over there. So they promoted me to a moderator. And then when Dank Christian Memes, we went down a few years back due to not having the right tools we needed for moderation, we created Dank Christian Memes 2, which was a refugee spot until Dank Christian Memes came back. So it was sort of this leapfrogging into more significant, places and more larger communities. But, I don't want to suggest that larger communities are better communities. I think there's a quality factor there. Troy, I want to ask you, how would you describe the Reddit culture around moderators? Obviously, I am a moderator, so obviously I come from a somewhat, conflicted or compromised position. But you, as someone who's been on Reddit at least as long as I have, how are moderators seen or viewed? What are some of the stereotypes?
Honestly, it depends on the subreddit or the subculture within that subreddit. I would say moderation, like most jobs, is a kind of a thankless position. Nobody really notices good moderation. They only notice if they feel like things are just going poorly, that they need someone to focus that blame on. And then there are some moderators who they themselves kind of get that there's a rush from saying, like, I am part of the control of this thing, and not saying that's in bad faith. It's just, I'm the person that kind of helps keep this thing going. So my view as someone who looks as just purely a lurker or a user of the site, I'm never in the sort of moderation space. The less I know about the moderators, the better. And the only thing I want to know is that if things start to shake up or go left, or it feels like an area is becoming less safe or less fun, really, that the moderators do have are active and want to make sure it's just a better environment. But the only time I ever hear about that is, again, if it's people voicing the negative. Oh man, the moderators are so this, the moderators aren't doing that. How come and then it's just a lot of like Monday morning quarterbacking or side seat driving, where everybody thinks that they could do the job better than the people that are currently doing it. And that's only because they are not currently doing it.
Thank you for that breakdown. I know you bring up a good point, and I don't want to blame victims here. But there do seem to be certain folks who interact with moderators more than the average user. I know there's even subreddits. I think there's a sub that's called I Just Got Banned, where people share the subs they got banned for them. And, typically that they feel it was done unjustly. But people do take it as a badge in some weird ways too. So I wanted to bring this back around to you, Deirdre. When you became a moderator, did you feel like there was a shift in culture, that you would sort of step through the looking glass and now, you sort of saw the code behind Reddit, but also, like, did you receive any negativity from users as a moderator early on?
Well, yes and no. People seem to forget sometimes that moderators are users who just well, I'm not going to speak for all moderators, but a lot of us just saw a need for somebody to come in and kick out the bots, the spammers, the people posting inappropriate things to a sub. Like if you are hosting or a part of a sub where they're talking about local events, you don't want like another state's information to be added, where in addition to being the police, we also curate. We're librarians who try and keep the subreddit we run on topic. If you go into...
That's a really great way of putting it.
If you go into like RA, if you go in there, you don't want to see something like about war or politics. You just want to look at cute animals and adorable babies. You want to get away from meanness and just feed your soul a little bit. And what we do as moderators is kind of step in front of you and protect you from the stuff that you don't want to see in your subreddit. And it is a thankless job, but some people are just masochistic that way, I guess. We want to help order things and just get, don't post your OnlyFans stuff here and no, don't troll. And we just want to make it a little bit better of an experience for everybody.
Well, and you raise a really good point. And Troy, I'm going to ask you about this before I come back to Deirdre on it. But there's something to be said for cute and wholesome content. And another one of our partners in the Dank Charity Alliance is Wholesome Memes. And I get the sense that people feel that the internet can be really great or the internet can be really yucky. And we talked about how, well, depending on the sub you're on, depending on the moderators and what they're going for, you can experience different levels of that. But a lot of people, so I think a perfect example is our eye bleach. Our eye bleach is I believe its recommended use is that when you see something horrible, perhaps something you can't unsee, that you need to bring balance to the equation, that you need to look at something cute and wholesome, that sure, you can't forget that thing you saw, but you need to add more positive things to your brain's experience. Troy, do you think this is something that has become more popular recently, or do you think this is something that's always been part of the popular experience?
I think it's something that's always been part of the popular experience. I truly think, and we can kind of apply this across the board where a lot of things, it's not so much that things are happening more frequently. And I'm not going to ignore that. Obviously, a frequency boost could happen to anything, but not that a lot of things are happening more frequently. It's just that we are now way more aware of things that we usually wouldn't have been. So even along those lines, where going back to just our early internet days when we were young teens and everything, there was rotten.com and stuff like that. And there were things that people purposely gravitated towards because it was more the edgy, kind of freaky, mean-spirited, gross stuff. But on the other end, there are people that purposely gravitate towards the cute, the wholesome, the adorable. And we've always had that balance. Like if you go back to just trying not to go back too far, but let's say the 80s, which was like the boom of like slasher horror and a lot of like super macho action stuff. That's also the peak of like My Little Pony and Cabbage Patch Dolls and things of that nature. Like there's always been a balance to the super mean by design or by accident, and then that people revert, the pendulum swings the other direction for the super cute and adorable. We've always seen that in every major cultural touch point through the 80s, 90s, and now today where people's entertainment or what they get, how they pass their time is kind of more algorithm based, where your systems and your computers are figuring it out for you and trying to put the things in front of you that they think you'd like. People tend to forget that we're all getting our own versions of that. So while there might be a subculture, it's like, no, we all love this super mean, like edgelordy stuff. It's like, no, there's a lot of people that don't like that. And their machines are giving them things that are decidedly the opposite of that. And if you just get caught in the middle, you're going to see the extremes of both. So then you have to make the active choice to go for the cute and cuddly, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, I really appreciate the cute and cuddly as a direct counterbalance, especially like I said, where you just saw something and you need to go to our awe or our eye bleach and spend some time recovering from what the internet has just done to you. And there's no shortage, especially since the war in Ukraine started, it can be a little easy to happen upon some, disturbing stuff. So I want to move this. I want to take this question. I just want to put a little bit of spin on it before I send it back to Deirdre. Deirdre, you told us that you started on a small local sub, which, kind of makes a lot of sense. But how different is it modding for RAW? And I mean, like across two vectors. One, that it is a cute, wholesome space. How is that different? And also, because it's so large, if I'm not mistaken, I think RAW is a default sub. How does that change the community dynamic compared to the other subs you work with?
Well, because we're on the front page, we do get a lot of people who stumble in with bad intent. Unlike the other smaller subs where you actually have to go look for it and subscribe to it and you become part of that community, a lot of people just come in to and they just want to be mean. They make inappropriate comments. They post things that are not cute. They come in to antagonize. And there's also all the bots that want to build their karma. And there is...
So you guys are like the front lines of whatever comes through the gate of Reddit, that you are among the first thing they see. And if they've got ill intent, then you're among their first targets too, it sounds like.
Yes, definitely. Being a front page sub is difficult, and it requires a lot of maintenance and a pretty large moderator team. We have to talk behind the scenes on Discord, and we talk about policies and rules and how we're going to handle different situations. And each moderator is an individual, so we're all going to handle things slightly different, but we try to be on the same page about how we're going to handle problems, and it's not easy.
It feels like your subreddit is set up on Main Street, and as a result, all the salespeople and whatever else is just getting at you first. And I feel like there's a lot of subs that are like, oh man, I wish we were bigger, or I wish we were one of the primary subs, and I don't think they would anticipate the sort of things you describe.
Exactly. Yeah, when smaller subs actually have posts that hit the main page, they get inundated with people who just have chaos in mind. They just want to get the lulz, and they just don't realize how much hard work other people put into the sub, how much love and care, or maybe they don't care and just enjoy being wrecking balls.
Attention is the most dangerous currency going right now. And it doesn't really, for a lot of people, it doesn't matter how they get it. It's just as long as they're getting some form of attention. I mean, it's old class clown rules from elementary school, just exacerbated by thousands and millions because of just potential social reach. So yeah, they just come through like the wrecking ball you're describing. And there's no real intent to it other than somebody to look at them. And what happens in the course of that doesn't matter.
We have some of this experience on Dank Christian Memes. I think of us as a medium-sized sub, especially when compared to something like RAW. We have only 800,000 members currently. Many of our posts just stay inside our sub and don't get anywhere, but occasionally we get something that gets enough upvotes on Dank Christian Memes to hit RAW. And that's when the moderation time gets real. That, like you said, we sort of get people stumbling through the door and they saw something that made them have an ill response for whatever reason. So I want to share something about myself, and I don't know if this is going to get me canceled, but we'll see. I really like RAW. I really like animals. I actually foster kittens during the summer with my family here. But I have a bit of an issue with RAW. I have two problems when I browse it. One is that I just end up missing my cats. And if I'm away from home, that makes me really sad because my cats aren't around. But the other is that I'm a person who actually suffers from a little bit of cute aggression. So I get too excited when I see something cute and I just have to walk away. So this is a documented thing. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's legitimate. But makes me wonder, what kind of reactions do you see on I imagine a lot of it is people who, like I said, love seeing cute things. But what are the weird reactions that you see other than people who are just stumbling in the door to attack Reddit and they just happen to see you first?
Well, a lot of people give the squee reaction, I call it, where they're just like, oh, I love you so much. I just want to squeeze you. But we do have people who want to share photos and talk about their own animals. There's a lot of people who have lost their kitties or doggies or, whatever pet that they're loving, and they want to share that. And that can sometimes spark whole interesting conversations where people are supporting each other and saying I'm so sorry, and being able to share an empathy, because if you are a lover of animals, you've probably experienced the pain of loss, and it's nice to have that support and human contact, I guess.
Yeah, that's really important, and I've always found it interesting how mourning and experience of loss can take place online in a way that, like you said, on a place like our it's easy to find other people who have been there and therefore can sympathize with relative ease. So that's really great. I'm going to ask a really petty question now, unless there's something else I don't want to. Troy, did you have something?
No, I want to hear what this petty question might be.
All right, here we go. On our because I know that you're not all of Reddit, but you're the largest sample size. Do we have pet politics on Reddit? Do we have people that are jockeying no, dogs and puppy are cuter, cats and kittens are cuter? Is there a third party bird wing that is trying to vie for, or are we just all about animals and all these petty decisions cease?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because most of the people on our are pretty together in their love of all things cute. But there is a divide, but it's not what you think. There's a divide between people who want to see cute kids and people who only want to see cute animals. And that has caused a little bit of conflict.
The Reddit hates kids factor.
Yes. Yeah, well, I've seen reports on pictures of adorable babies that say children should be banned.
I think that's delightfully like comic book style evil. Like, we need to ban children. Like, from Reddit, like, no, we need to ban children.
Well, people on our and even on other subs can be quite vocal in their opinion, shall we say. I'm also a moderator on cats, and we are a lot of little wars come out about indoors cats versus outdoor cats, and people are very passionate about their feelings. Oh,
passionately debating the one best way to own a cat, because obviously there's only one best way to own an animal. One way to
do and everybody else's way is completely wrong. That's the end of the rule. And
it's funny, but parents do it with their kids as well. That, well, if you're not doing XYZ with your baby, then you're obviously a negligent parent.
To be fair, we don't own cats. They kind of own us.
That's certainly how they would tell the story.
Indeed. We are their servants.
Now, Castor Troy, you have both cats and dogs. Is that right?
I do. I have one dog and 2 kittens currently.
You're the only person I follow on Twitter, so I know a weird amount about you. So let's take this question to real life. Do you feel like there's not political groups, but I get the sense that dogs being out and about is really cool. I took my cat to a pet store once, which they say you can do, and wow, the dog people just look really mad at me. Is this me? Am I imagining things, or is there this sort of social division? And are you a bridge between these two divided worlds?
So I'm not going to say you're imagining things. I do think you might be more hyper aware of.
For the record, you have told me when I'm imagining things, so I know you can do it if it's necessary.
Yes, if necessary, if I deem it necessary, I would point it out. But no, and I think in a situation like this, it's because I have a friend of mine who basically raised her cat up as a dog. Like, she walks it on a leash, she brings it with her everywhere she goes for the most part, and her whole thing is like, people look at you really weird when you do that. And it's like, well, yes, because while there is a movement to treat cats as such, for the longest time, like, you expect to see cats in certain situations. So seeing just a cat out and about when the world has kind of bent to the whims of dog ownership in terms of just how we bring them out everywhere, every once in a while you see somebody with a cat that way, and it's like, oh yeah, there's no real reason we weren't doing that before other than just we weren't doing it.
I was leash training my cats before the pandemic. And then during the pandemic, everyone's like, I'm going to take my cat outside. And I'm like, oh, well, it is fun if it works out.
But yeah, that's really what you're seeing a lot of, is just people reacting to, wait, oh, you can just treat cats that way. And it's like, yes, you can. And some cats actually really take to it. And not every cat wants to be this docile, only in the home type of cat. But then you also just have the Capulet versus Montague situation of cat people versus dog people, and that's just a tale as old as time right there.
It feels like the animal version of men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
Yes, it's so strange because I'm someone who isn't particular. Like, I grew up. If I had to pick one designation, I was a cat person growing up. But it's largely because I grew up in the city. Like, we didn't have big apartments, and most of the apartments we had rules against any dog, period. But then they did the breed types and then sizes. So we just always had cats. I didn't have my own first dog until I was 30 years old, and I'd already moved here to Austin. And that's when I got my current dog. And yeah, and after the pandemic happened, I realized, oh, I've been home for pretty much 3 years, being able to work from home, but I have to go back out into the world more frequently, going to the office and just doing more things. My dogs regressed a bit. Let me get some cats, so that way they just can keep each other company, keep each other busy. It's a nice little thing. And people treat that like I somehow learned, like I could bend the matrix because I have dogs and cats living together. It's like, no.
Years of cartoons have taught us that cats and dogs don't get along. And if we can't trust cartoons, who can we trust?
Who can we trust at all? Like, they've clearly laid the mold for what social human and animal interaction should be across the board. But no, my cats and my dog live harmoniously. They hang out together. They play together. It's just fine. But also, I do know that I did the trick of, I had the old dog and I adopted like the youngest kittens you could get. So
yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Something not to play with and hurt, and then they just grew up with him. So I have 2 cats that act like dogs too.
That's one thing I wish we could do with our fosters more. Maybe now we can, because the pandemic is, I'm not going to say over, I'm going to say subsided for a bit. That, getting them more exposure to dogs earlier on, so that if they are adopted into a house with dogs, that's something they're somewhat prepared for. So little notes for myself to try to become, the best little foster parent I can be for little kitties. So I haven't this is a random curious question, Deirdre. Is Cat or Day still a thing, or is it over? Do you see an increased post for cats on Saturdays, or is this the internet and every day's Cat or Day?
Well, there is an increase on Saturdays, and until Reddit Talk decided they were going to discontinue, we tried to run a Cat or Day talk every day on our cats. Some of the mods between our all and cats actually overlap. And so there's a little bit of shared love there, and a unspoken alliance.
Well, that makes a fair amount of sense. So what is something you wish people knew about some of the subs that you mod for? Do you feel like, people walk in and understand what you're all about, or do you feel like some people don't understand? Like for instance, I feel like the issue with human babies and whether or not they qualify is a Reddit wide question that shows up. Have you had any others like that?
Well, a lot of times a user will come into a different sub and they will think that they can post or comment whatever they like. And I would say it's so important when you go to a new sub to just look at the rules real quick, because there's some things that just aren't allowed in our as an example. The title of your post has to be 100% happy. You can tell your story in the comments, but that title's got to be all feel good all the time. You can't mention
no obituary posts.
Yes.
In other words,
Yes.
Obituaries go in the comments.
No, I rescued this chicken from a fighting ring or anything like that. It's just, you can save it for the comments, but keep it like happy. And local subs have their own sets of rules, and that's a problem that moderators have to face, is explaining the rules in mod mail, and somebody comes in angry at us. I wanted to post this picture and now you've taken it down and I'm angry. But we're just trying to curate and keep things nice and light, and have some patience with us, please. We really want what's best for the sub.
Well, and I think it's easy for folks to forget that moderators are volunteers. And when you're moderating for one of the foremost subs on Reddit, there's just a scale to the task that, I wish people, that's my wish, is that people understood the scale of the task, which of course you can't unless you do it. So, it is quite a wish.
Definitely. We spend so much time on Reddit just trying to make it a nicer place for everyone. I would say at a minimum, I spend an hour doing moderating each day. And sometimes when I'm trying to work on graphics or adding information, I can spend 4 or 5 hours just trying to make a single sub a little bit better.
Yeah, well, and, some of your subs are, larger in scale. At Dank Christian Memes, every so often I forget that the thing we're doing here is largely considered impossible by others. That many internet communities are predicated on rules that you don't bring up politics, you don't bring up religion, and both are going to come up inevitably in our sub. And we kind of ride the wave as we move through some of these rocky topics. And I feel like a lot of folks come over and they see some of our posts and like, wow, these are wholesome posts. This must be a wholesome sub. Well, sure, sometimes, but also, we're probably going to bicker about a lot of things because that's, kind of what Christians are known to do. And, we try to keep it friendly, but, sometimes, well, I was just explaining my point. It's like, well, you got to dial it back a bit. This is a meme sub. And, I always feel like if you're getting angry while on a meme sub, you've kind of played yourself.
Well, I'm kind of curious. We've asked about me, but what about you? What's your modding experience being like working on Christian sub?
I read a lot of comments. I think honestly learning to use automod has been crucial. There are certain words and certain phrases that only come up when folks are condemning certain other folks. And one thing I've learned is that this stuff is so formulaic that I've had the same conversation so many times that I can anticipate it in advance now. And I think a lot of these people, when they're getting banned, they think that they're saying something so unique, and they are not. So,
oh gosh.
So like for the most part, we like to let it fly, but there's a rule that debating in what is one thing and having an outright argument is another. I think a lot of folks don't realize that, and they think we're trying to, mute their position. And it's like, oh no, you just, you're presenting it at the end of a pitchfork, you see, and that's not very polite.
Oh boy. Yeah. I can so relate to that. The whole, you're suppressing my freedom of speech, but you can't come into a discussion, start an argument and start calling people names. That's not productive. Nobody's going to listen to your side if you are aggressive and attacking the other person. Then you're not arguing, you're not debating, you're not discussing, you're just fighting and attacking.
Yeah,
and go ahead, Troy.
Of discourse. I mean, it's always been a problem, but especially with social media and like that, anonymous and like that between the filter of the computer screen, there's a miscommunication with people that don't realize whether or not they're talking or conversing to be understood and to understand someone else, or if they're just trying to win. And that's what comes out a lot of times. People, they're trying to win a conversation by any means, and they truthfully just aren't equipped to even really do that. So they just end up insulting and being mean and doing like they cross so many lines that they don't realize they're crossing. And it's like, no, you're not. This isn't a back and forth. This is just you throwing things at a wall and you're trying to break the wall. And that's no real debate can be had that way.
I think something that folks, I think they know it, but they forget about it. Like our little slogan that no one ever asked for is that, we're a place for all kinds of Christians, and there's many kinds, and all kinds of non-Christians, and there's even more of those. And that this should theoretically be a place where everyone can participate on equal footing. And I think that equal footing part is very hard for folks to understand, especially when you don't have a mod's eye view of things. So I try to be, somewhat gracious. But a perfect example is, folks who are Jehovah's Witness or Latter-day Saints / Mormon, because they are uniquely positioned among the Christian denominations, they tend to get more flack. So, one thing I'll often do is just, let people know, hey, just so you're aware, Jehovah's Witnesses and Latter-day Saints folks are just as welcome here as anybody else. But then the Lutherans will say, well, why don't you say that about Lutherans? And why don't you say that about atheists? And it's like, well, it's true of everyone, but these are the folks who are constantly being questioned on it. So everyone has a different idea of what being on equal footing is. And at the end of the day, I'm just a dude trying my best. So, I'm never selling my services as perfect. And if I did, obviously no one should believe that.
That is the truth.
So I have one transition question for us. Deirdre, what made you decide to join up with the Dank Charity Alliance other than being pressured by me?
Well, I did receive your message in the mod mail, and I have participated in other charity events for St. Jude's in the past. Reddit runs an annual Extra Life gaming charity raiser, and I participated in that last year. And I think it's a really good cause. And after you sent your, hey, you guys interested? I did say, hey, other moderator people, we should do this. I think this is a good idea.
Well, and we're very glad that you did say that. I think you deserve credit on 2 points. One, you responded to my message, so I personally find that important. But that you read mod mail and not even responded means we have one historically confirmed event of a mod reading mod mail and responding to it. So there is hope for humanity yet. And thank you for doing that.
Well, I guess it happens. It's just like quiet.
So I guess now we'll shift a little bit. Well, is there anything we missed about RR? Are there any questions I didn't ask that I should have asked, or anything you want to share before we kind of shift over to the charity component?
I wish I had some witty, insightful comment, but right now my mind is blank. I'm sorry.
Well, there will always be time later, so don't feel the time pressure. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about. I had two primary inspirations for the Dank Charity Alliance. It was something that I had in my head, and that Jacob and our other moderator, David, who's very low profile, I shouldn't even say his name in public, they were very encouraging. They walked with me and they were supportive of me as I was brainstorming this idea, and it went through a few different forms before it really became useful or good, as you might say. The idea spent some time being not good before it became good, and I'm thankful for those who had patience. But my two primary inspirations were the Project for Awesome, which is a fundraiser for Sierra Leone and their Center for Pediatric Excellence. And it's something that the subreddit R Nerdfighters does, and they're just a internet community who has a number of charitable things that they work on. So I was really impressed with how they ran their fundraiser. It's much larger in scale than ours, and it's been going for, I want to say 8 years, but I could be wrong on that. And the other inspiration was the meme wars that used to happen between prequel memes, that's Star Wars prequels, of course, and the Lord of the Rings memes that every so often, at least a few years back, I don't know if they do this anymore, they would sort of fake brigade each other. I don't know if either of you guys have seen this, where they like, and basically every post is a crossover post that a lot of them still count. And if it's not about it, it's hard to describe, but the meme wars that took place between those two communities and sort of interplay between two franchises that literally had nothing to do with each other, I thought was an interesting idea to sort of call different groups together. Have you guys seen groups doing that? Like sort of fake rating is, I mean, they sort of are real rating, but it's like with permission.
I've seen that on Twitch, and not so much here because I hate to say it, but Redditors are a little bit like herding cats to get them to do things.
That certainly can be a true story. I can speak to that. Troy, what kind of interplay have you seen between Reddits, if any?
That is one I tend to miss. It usually only pops up because you create Reddit to be basically your own curated news and like alerts filter. I only see what happens like gaming Reddits, where two different gaming subreddits probably get together to put together an event or just kind of just cross-pollinate and get some interaction going. I don't see it much more than that, and I don't see it much deeper than that. So I'm mostly ignorant or unawares of larger Reddit, subreddit versus subreddit or joining situations.
Actually, I'm wrong. I do remember, but it was sort of in the same sub, though. The new collectible avatars that Reddit has released, there are factions because some of the avatars have Vikings and some of them wear cones on their head. There was a cones versus Vikings war that they staged, and it was really
Right. I think prequel memes recently had a droids versus clone troopers that I think was a similar sort of change your profile picture event. I'm glad that something's still going on. I think Reddit has been less okay with these sort of fake brigadings because brigading is wrong in a general sense. So we have some interplay between our subs. I encourage folks to post at Dank Christian Memes. If it's anything to do with St. Jude or the fundraiser, it's fair game in my book. But yeah, by and large, I think that's been the new style, the sort of icon changing. So
as long as it's in good fun, I'm all for it. Yeah.
Well, and I'm also like, once again, I feel pretty good about our auto moderator. It has served us really well and has been the tools we need for success. So, and it's been good during the fundraiser as well. So I want to mention one of the forms the fundraiser took before it is what it was, to show you how this idea was bad before it was good. We were originally thinking that it would be teams trying to outraise each other. So we'd have two fundraiser pages and each team would try to recruit as many members, and it would be a competition to see which one could raise more money. That didn't really make a lot of sense for a number of reasons. And I think the sort of sense of camaraderie in making it a single group raising money, not to beat another group, but for the sake of doing a good thing. I think that actually worked pretty well. And I didn't have to sort of rely on that sort of gimmick approach. And thankfully, like, this is our second year running. So the sort of unified team has been really good, and we've been really thankful to have new groups come on board, like our Awe, as well as some of the other subs you work for. So again, thank you for being a part of that and putting up with my shenanigans along the way.
Oh, well, it's been my pleasure. I really do get behind St. Jude and the work that they do. I feel like, unfortunately, in America, a lot of kids are falling through the cracks and not getting the health care that they need.
Yes, well, and I live in the American Northeast, and I feel like we have a pretty decent quality of hospitals in our area. And I know some areas down south don't have as many options. So I like that St. Jude is helpful for the region, as well as obviously treating the child, and obviously also researching better methods and better treatments. I feel like St. Jude is a pretty good package deal. And so that's part of why, we like them. And also their fundraiser webpage is just, I think it's really awesome. I love how customizable it is, how we can make a new one each year. And I think it really works well to get people involved. I like that we can change our goal as we go. And as people donate, they can choose to be anonymous and not have anything, or they can list their donation on the donor wall, which I think is really cool and lets people sort of see behind what would otherwise be behind the curtain, to see, oh, wow, we actually get people, donating in larger amounts sometimes.
And if they are able to show who they are, that might qualify them to get a special prize.
Yes. So why don't we shift over to the art component, and you being the artist, why don't you get us started?
Well, I think this year we are starting a raffle for anybody who donates over $10. And several artists are donating original works of art for one of the winners of the raffle. It's going to be fun, and we'll see how it goes.
And that's going to be inclusive. So anyone who's donated to this fundraiser, even if a few people donated before we started, if you donated more than $10, then you're still going to be in. There's no time restriction. And we're going to do the drawing actually the day after the fundraiser officially ends, just so we make sure everyone's in and we're being as fair as possible. We're going to sort of put all the names into a hat, but we're going to find a digital solution, because it seems silly to actually print out paper and do a hat. But if I can't find a digital solution, that is what I'm going to do. So that is my plan. Thank you so much for giving art. Now, I want to put a question between Castor Troy real quick. I want to point out that this is digital art, but not an NFT. We're planning to probably email or maybe send a download link. Troy, are NFTs over now? Can we just move on with our lives? Or is this something that, I don't know about the financial end of it, or is this something that there's still an audience for?
There's the remaining audience for NFTs is pretty much who the existing audience was to begin with. It was people with more dollars than actual cents, and they were just trying to corral people into what was clearly like a money laundering type scheme. I want more people. There is a use for NFTs, just not a fully unilateral, ubiquitous use for NFTs.
Well, here's the irony. I'm asking you, as a talking NFT right now, I purchased this NFT from Reddit. I think of it as a profile picture, but it's definitely an NFT. It has its own little code, and I had to sign up for a little. So there's more than a little dramatic irony behind my question, but I do want to make the distinction that the art we're offering is just really nice digital art from our independent artists. Deirdre, did you want to mention anything about Reddit's NFT program?
Well, I think it's doing well.
They got my $5, no, $10. So they at least made that. I checked the store and it seemed like a lot of them were sold out. So wave one did well.
They're all sold out. I have a few of the free profile avatars, collectible avatars, I guess they call them. And I won the one that I'm kind of wearing right now, by submitting a drawing to a contest. And I think they're a lot of fun. And the way that Reddit has done them, I think kind of adds a little bit more fun to them, since you can swap around the parts of the avatars. Like I'm wearing a regular snoo head, but you can see, well, if you get a chance to look at my avatar, that she's wearing samurai armor, and she's got a cat on her head and a dragon and a cheerleader snoo behind her. It's all pieces from different NFTs and different parts of the Reddit avatar builder. And I think it's a lot of fun to have those options.
Yeah, I'm also a fan of it, and I feel like what's come from the NFT, hopefully, is just like, well, if you just take the crypto away, it's just art, and art is much easier to enjoy and is much less maybe complicated. So, like, I'm sure there are folks out there for whom NFTs make a lot of sense, and I'm sure there's some artists for whom that is maybe the ideal medium for them. But again, that's not what we're offering. This is just art, and it's going to be unique. I think that's the biggest problem. I don't want to say anything about it because I don't know. I haven't seen it. I'm not sure if it's even been created yet. And I feel like that's also part of the excitement of it.
Well, I put a sample in the text, the comment part. I made a few little SNU avatars, and this is a sample of the kind of thing that I would give whoever won my gift would get.
And those look fantastic, and seems like it would be, really, really great, especially for fans of that franchise. I'm very lucky. When I found my NFT that I'm wearing here in my profile picture, it's because it's a quote biblically accurate angel from the book of Ezekiel. So I was just really excited that there was in this art collection something that was so overtly biblical that I'd be like, oh wow, that's like super appropriate for me. So I like to think that these other pieces of art are equally, for a lot of folks, like, yes, that is my unique little thing. And I hope we see more of that on Reddit, whether it's through Reddit themselves or just independent artists sharing their art.
Oh yeah, I really love your avatar. It's just beautiful. I love the art style. Every so often I just look at it because I really love the color, how much color is brought to it. It looks a little different in different settings. You can't sort of see the color in Reddit Talks. That's the last thing I forgot to mention. So is there anything else on the art before I go into Reddit Talks? Troy, did you have any final thoughts on the art component? Well, all the artists who are participating are amazing, and I'm so pleased that they're willing to give their time and energy toward this project. And I've posted a couple more pictures in the comments in case you want to get an idea of what you could win if you donated.
Thank you so much. And again, one of our other artists was going to be here today. Something came up, but we are very appreciative for everyone who's helping out with this. All right. So the last thing, I know Deirdre knows this because we've been talking about it before, but Reddit Talks is going to be shutting down. And it's going to be kind of soon. I believe March 22nd is the flip the switch day. So our podcast will not come to an end, although we will probably be ending season 1 relatively soon. But we are gonna shift formats a little bit. I'm not sure how we're gonna do that. But the folks that listen to us on Reddit Talks, thanks. Our links to our typical podcast will be there. And if you are a fan of the Reddit Talks platform, or even if you're not, there's only a few days left. Try it out. Check it out. It's been great for me. I've met a lot of awesome people, and it's been a fun way to do podcasts. So it will be missed. Do you have any words of respect for the fallen Reddit Talks platform, Deirdre?
Well, I really liked it because I got to talk to some really interesting people too. I got to talk to the cat daddy, Jackson Galaxy, on a Cat's Talk.
He is the cat guy. Cat guy. He's all over the place.
And he was so nice and so helpful answering questions. And I also got to talk to Conan O'Brien's co-host on Conan O'Brien Makes Friends. I got to talk to Matt and Sona, and they were delightful.
That sounds like a really unique experience.
It was amazing.
I will say for us, the highlight is, and it's actually episode 1 of our podcast on our podcast page. We did an interview with Dr. Amy Jo Levine, who is a professor of New Testament and Hebrew studies. So she was able to bring, the Jewish perspective behind the character of Jesus in the Bible. So that was, like I said, that was kind of the whole reason we did the podcast, was just to interview her. So that was really great. And like I said, that's episode 1 on our podcast page. And it is the one that has the most views because, probably the highest quality guest. I'm going to have to work to get more academics like that in the future.
That sounds great.
All right. Well, I feel like we're coming up on our time, and we've covered most of our subjects. Do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to plug as we get ready to sign off here, Castor Troy?
Nothing really to plug. I mean, other than what you all have going on. So please support the artists that are donating and things of that nature. So, but other than that, you'll just see me here on Dank Christian Memes podcast every now and again, and I'll probably be plugging some writing links in the near future, but just thanks for listening to my voice every now and again.
Cool. Well, thanks for bringing your voice over here. It's great to have you. Deirdre, any final thoughts as we wrap up here?
I think this is an amazing project, and I hope that we're able to get more subreddits to join the Alliance. And I really love it when Reddit does good things. A lot of times we hear in the news about dog walking mods and people being hateful and nasty things coming out. But when Reddit gets together and does good things, it can be so amazing. And that's what I'm hoping for the Dank Charity Alliance.
We got to bring that positivity. Got to balance the equation, whatever way we can. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you everyone for listening. This has been the Dank Christian Memes podcast. Dank Christian Memes is a place for all kinds of Christians and all kinds of non-Christians to enjoy memes and fellowship. If you'd like to connect with us further, we have social links in the description. Our music that is at the beginning and end of our podcast is provided by Olive Tiger. Thank you for listening, and until next time, may the memes bless you and keep you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.